driven by British Council IELTS. We are all privileged to have an eminent Indian economist and a mathematician with us today. He is someone who has demonstrated his prowess in various disciplines in his illustrious career spanning 40 years. Yes, he is none other than Dr. Subramanian Swamy.
To read out Sir's accomplishment will altogether need another session. Yet, concisely speaking, Sir has done his PhD in economics from the prestigious Harvard University and his master's in statistics from the Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata. Dr. Subramanian Swamy is a former Union Cabinet Minister of Commerce, Law and Justice, Government of India, and current nominated Member of Parliament in Rajya Sabha.
Sir has been the Member of Parliament for 6 terms since 1974, and that we feel is worth a huge round of applause. Sir has also served as a member of the Planning Commission of India, which has now been transformed to Niti Aayog.
Apart from this, Dr. Swamy has contributed to a report of United Nations on economic cooperation between developing countries in the year 1978. He has authored several books, research papers, and journals. Continuously working towards creating an equitable and transparent society, Sir has played a role on bringing VVPT verifiable printing slip during voting that has increased credibility of EVMs.
Even though Sir is not a lawyer by profession, yet Sir has fought successfully numerous PILs and corruption cases in various courts of India. Dr. Swamy has been an office bearer in institutions of both national and international importance. Truly, Sir is a man of all seasons, a great leader, a great educationist, and a visionary.
Since we all know the theme for Technovanza 2017 is catalyzing innovations, hence, Sir will enlighten us all on the topic Innovations Directing India to a Global Economic Superpower. Who better than the man himself, Dr. Subramanian Swamy, to throw light on this topic?
We would now like to invite Dr. Subramanian Swamy on the stage, and we request Dr. Dhiren Patel, Director of VJTI, to extend a warm welcome to Sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Huh?
Follow.
Oh, yeah, I don't. That means I don't have to hold this.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to put all this. Okay. I think I'll go back to that. For what? Oh, this I can hold it. It's okay. Nature. Madam Chairman of the Board of Governors, Ms. Shroff, the Director of this prestigious institution, and students. I'm going to speak to you today about innovation and how that could propel India onto the global scene. Now, innovation is not just an invention. It's the conversion, when it is converted to utilization in the society or through the market, and has a clientele which wishes to purchase it. That is, an invention is an invention which is of practical application. That is called innovation. But innovation is very important in economic development, because it has been estimated that all the countries which grew from developing to developed went through a stage of deploying innovations by which the productivity of the inputs, capital and labor, were so much increased that they accelerated to become developed countries. So England, for example, or Britain, in the early 19th century, invented first the locomotive concept and then made it into a full-fledged railway system. That became the innovation which incorporated the markets within England, and that boost raised the industrial revolution, created the industrial revolution along with Bessemer steel plants. So the innovation which drove the industrial revolution was locomotive and the Bessemer steel blast furnace. Later on, the United States came through with a lot of new innovations, the wireless, and then the jet planes, fax machines, and on, calculators. And ultimately, at the end of the 20th century, they created the internet, which was a major which provided a major transformation on how we do business, and the whole concept of globalization came because of that. So I am wish to explain to you that when, as economists, we calculate the contribution of innovation, it is usually not less than 65% of the growth. That is, the major contribution to any country's spurt in economic growth is due to innovations. And that can be seen by a simple equation, which I'll put on the blackboard. And from that you can draw. I'm going to put it very simply. But almost all well-known economists who have worked on this field have used that equation. Now if production Q is a function of innovation, that is, innovation multiplied by capital employed and labor employed, then dQ by dt is dA by dt F plus A delta F by delta K. I'll put K dot for K. K dot means dK by dt plus delta F by delta L dot L. And if you knew this form, and economists know, they have estimated many of these forms, then from this, if you write 1 by Q dot, this is the rate of growth. The rate of growth. So if you put that in the equation form, you will get A dot F divided by AF plus A divided by AF, and therefore this will cancel with this. This is A dot by A plus this will cancel 1 over F, this equation. So if you take this to this is the rate of growth of output. So you minus that, this is can be interpreted as the contribution of capital and labor to growth. And that is this portion. The rate of growth is equal to the rate of growth of innovation plus the contribution of capital and labor. And this turns out to be not less than 65% of Q dot by Q. That's what the economists have found. So, in a sense, therefore, the most important contribution to growth in any country is due to innovations. There's another way of looking at it, and that is if you have here Q, that's output, and on this you have input, that is a measure of capital and labor combined in some way, then you will get a production curve. When the input is 0, the output is 0, so you'll get a curve like this. The more you put capital and labor, the more output you'll get, but it slowly tapers off, and this tapering off is called the law of diminishing returns. And for a particular technology, which I'll call as A1. Then for another technology, innovation level, A2, you will have a curve like this. And the more innovations, so what is the theory is that while putting more capital and more labor, you will get more output, but at diminishing terms. Whereas if you want to really jump, then you have to move from one innovation level to another innovation level. And therefore, innovations, I would like to begin by saying, is an extremely crucial component of the growth of any country. And innovation may be in terms of inventions, or mechanical inventions, physical inventions, or in terms of organizations. So you begin with that, and what we are saying is innovation enhances productivity. For the same level of input, you'll get higher and higher levels of output according to the level of innovations you have. And this productivity is the crucial thing. So why is United States the lead country for last at least 100 years? And that is because they have been consistently investing in innovations and getting innovations and using it. And the last being, of course, the internet, which has transformed the way you do business, that will transform the way you do inventory control, and so on. As today, a shopkeeper, a bookstore, it has a program by which as you buy, people start buying a book, it tells you how low the stock is. And in fact, it has a mechanism by which it can send to the publisher a message by email automatically to say, I need so many more new copies. So the stock of inventory, which is a deadweight cost, that has come down to almost zero thanks to internet. Due to internet and video conferencing, today you can sit in New York and run your factory in about 5-10 countries without difficulty. So innovations have transformed the way you do production. So this is therefore an extremely crucial aspect of innovation. And those countries which are not specialists in innovations, who are not focusing on innovations, they taper off after some time. Take the case of Japan. Japan, by this huge effort at savings, started accelerating after World War II. And they grew and grew. And at one stage, they reached a stage where people used to think that Japan might overtake the United States. But it didn't happen. because Japan was concentrating more on quality. The quality of products produced by Americans was superior in Japan compared to the United States. So people who used to buy Motorola radios started buying Panasonic. That was what happened. But once the Japanese reached the limit, after that Japan is now no more in the reckoning of being a number one country. In fact, today there are only 3 countries who are competing for number one status. One is the United States, which seems to be the favorite for the time being because of the fact that they are engaging in innovations full time. All their universities, everything is geared for innovations. And 2 is China, and 3 is India. India, because our students who have gone to the United States and contributed to the software revolution there, that has made people think that India is a country which is possibly going to become a fast-growing country. We originally, in 1947, we adopted the Soviet economic model thanks to Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru. So, the Soviet economic model was suitable, if at all, for any country. It was suitable for Soviet Union because the model said you extract resources from agriculture and finance industrialization. So in Russia, due to the Tsars, there was an agricultural revolution before Lenin took over in the Bolshevik Revolution. And then Lenin and Stalin subsequently, they kept on extracting resources from agriculture to put it in industry, and they built up an industrial system. In 1947, this was absolutely the wrong model to apply, because during the 100 years of British rule under the British Crown from 1857 to 1947, which is about 90 years, the British systematically extracted all the resources they could from agriculture. Why? Because the 1857, which the British call as mutiny, but we nationalists call it as the first war of independence, and so that's what you better call it from now on, because we are here for a long time to stay. So this war of independence was financed by the agriculturists. They gave the soldiers, they gave the money. Rani Jhansi got the maximum from the peasantry. All over the country, the rebellion was there. It was therefore, Veer Savarkar has named it as the first war of independence. And therefore, once they managed to crush it, the British said, this agriculture, we must break their backs. So they created a system called Zamindari, where the criminals of the country were given power to collect resources for the British government from the peasantry. And the freedom they gave to these zamindars was collect as much as you like. But this is the fixed amount you have to deliver to the British government to run our administration. And if you find that some farmer is unable to pay, you can extract the due amount from either by snatching his wife's jewelry, or by appropriating his house, or by going to his brother's house or relative's house and collecting from them. I mean, that was the kind of power they gave, and the agriculture was bled completely, and by the time we came to 1947, it was bone dry. Now, Jawaharlal Nehru adopted the Soviet model, and having adopted the Soviet model, you found that very soon we had an agricultural crisis. In 1965, because of the failure of the rainfall, there was such a situation that we literally were depending on ships from the United States bringing PL480 grains to survive and to avoid a famine. And the New York Times had headlines, India living from mouth to ship and ship to mouth. I mean, this is the kind of demeaning things they were saying about India. Two State Department officials, and you can see this from Google or go to Amazon and get a copy, Paddock and Paddock, P-A-D-D-O-C-K, and two brothers, Paddock and Paddock, wrote a book called World Famine 1975. In 1965, they are officials of the US government, and they write to say that very soon in 1975, that is 10 years from now, there will be a world famine. And like military people, we have to decide which countries can be fed and which countries cannot be fed out of grains with the United States. And therefore, you need a policy. And they said, India is a bottomless pit. It can never be fed. Even if the whole world's grain production is given to India, in 1975 it will not be enough for India. So let India be condemned and left to die like the soldiers who are grievously injured in a battle. They are left to die. They are not rescued. And therefore he said, let India be treated that way. And they'll eat each other up. There will be savagery. There will be cannibalism. All this is there in the book. In 1975, when 1975 came, India was not only not eating each other up, Indians were not only not eating each other up, but we were actually self-sufficient in food. What happened? What happened is Lal Bahadur Shastri, fortunately Nehru had departed, and Lal Bahadur Shastri called some scientists. He made a man from the south called C. Subramanian as the minister, and M.S. Swaminathan, the agricultural institute director, and a few others, and also took the help of Philippines and the United States Food Research Institute. And they came up with a package. And that package is a form of agricultural innovation where they fixed the amount of pesticides, water, seeds, etc., and gave to about 10% of the farmers of India that package. And that 10% produced what came to be known later on as Green Revolution. So India is in that kind of situation that because of the past deprivation of resources, today a small innovation will make a huge difference. And this package that was created, that was nothing extraordinary. There was no great knowledge. It's just bringing it together for the Indian soil. Indian soil today, we have such a large amount of land, but we use only 25% of the land to grow more than one crop. India, we can grow 3 crops a year, but only in 25% of the land we grow more than one crop. United States can't grow more than one crop a year because they have snowfall, so for 5 months there's no agriculture. Same thing with Europe and good parts of China too. But India is the only country which is gifted by God that 12 months of the year you have sunshine, and if you can provide for water and you can provide for seeds and so on, we will be able to feed the whole world. Our yield per acre is the lowest in the world for most crops. But our Agricultural Research Institute pilot projects have 6 times the output that rest of India has. On the same soil, a controlled experiment is able to produce 6 times. Everything about India is underutilized capacity. We have 150 million cows. They give an average of 200 liters per year. An average Israeli cow gives you 11,000 liters per year. Imagine what will happen to India if these 150 million cows started giving 11,000 liters per year on average. I will probably have to come to Bombay swimming in milk. That much milk will be generated in the country. This is the potential that innovation can tap into. So if India is to become a global power, we can become an agricultural global power, because everything that we produce is still the cheapest in the world. Rice is 1/6 the price of Japan. Wheat is 1/4 the price in United States. Milk is 1/7 the price in Europe. Fruits, flowers, everything we produce in our country. And if we can organize agriculture and put in cold storages, small airports, packaging of plants, so on, and ultimately empower the farmer to read the internet to find out where he's getting the best price, India would become a global country agriculturally overnight. And so far, nobody has done that. And I hope that in the future it can be done, and it's the easiest thing to do. It just requires focus, moving away from these urban development projects to developing this agriculture. But the question is, what about water? Well, India is not really short of water. Some parts are short of water, some parts have lots of water. For instance, Godavari and Krishna is all the time flooding. But in Kaveri, there's no water. Vaigai, there is no water. And they are fighting over water. There is an innovation which the Israelis have discovered, which if we use in India, we can produce as much water as we want for those who live in the Kaveri basin. When I was recently asked by a press fellow in Chennai, what is your solution to the Kaveri water problem? I said, do you want Kaveri water or you just want water? Tell me which you want. So he was a little taken aback. Then he said, no, water. So I said, put 4 desalination plants on the coast of Tamil Nadu. You will produce enough water to put it in the taps of every household in Tamil Nadu. You will get 24 hours of water. And you will be able to irrigate the entire area of Tamil Nadu. Countries like Israel and Saudi Arabia and parts of the Middle East, they are already doing that. And they have converted sand areas into green fields because they don't have any rivers, so they are desalinating seawater. And the Israelis are developing newer and newer technology. One of them is now to use not electricity, but solar energy to desalinate seawater. So we can produce enough water in Tamil Nadu to not only give the Tamilians all the water they want, but also pump water in the opposite direction of Kaveri so that the people of Karnataka can also drown in it if necessary. So this is an innovation. We have a problem of clean power. 60% of the world's thorium is available in India on the banks of Tamil Nadu and Kerala. I one day saw a news item saying that some people have been caught for sand smuggling in Tamil Nadu. I said, which idiot would smuggle sand, which you can get anywhere? Then I found that the sands of Tamil Nadu have monazite, which is thorium. Uranium is now depleting in supply. By 2050, there will be no uranium. So the United States has quietly started work on thorium reactors. So is Switzerland. But in India, Homi Bhabha had started the research on how to convert monazite into thorium, from thorium into U-233, uranium-233, for use in reactors. He had cracked the first 2. He was about to crack the 3rd stage too when an air crash killed him. Now, after that, no much research was done, and in 2005, Manmohan Singh terminated the research in thorium because we signed an agreement with the United States on Indo-US, this is called the Indo-US nuclear deal. So now I am saying that if you decide to go back to thorium research, and we have made, already our government has taken some steps to restart this, then we will have so much thorium that we can generate power for the whole subcontinent, including our neighbors, of course, minus Pakistan. But and there will be clean, it won't be like the usual nuclear reactor. It will be a clean nuclear reactor. So here is another innovation waiting to happen. Now, today we are importing 80% of our crude oil from Arab countries, Middle East, and making them very rich. But to get fuel for automobiles, now it is possible to use hydrogen fuel cells and power them with that. The Japanese are experimenting in the advanced stage. We can do it also. We have some scientists who have worked on it, and we can encourage them to do it. If we decide tomorrow that we will develop this technology of hydrogen fuel cells, then you will get clean automobiles. You won't get pollution from that. Moreover, of course, you will have to overnight charge your car. The batteries will have to be charged. But if instead of petrol pumps you have charging stations, then it will be just like as if you're using petrol. Now that can be done. Then what will happen? You don't have to import from abroad. And if our research, we can give it to other countries also. And in the end, nobody will buy oil from Arab countries. What will happen then? They will have to go back to their camels and their tents once again. So here is an innovation about which we are not thinking. I've written a letter to the Prime Minister that you have wonderful concepts of Make in India and all that. But the fact is, it should be invented in India also. And this invention, there is tremendous scope. If you link all the rivers, because some of the rivers like Godavari, Krishna are in surplus, some of them are deficit, then these canals will pass through areas which have never seen, for example, water, like Rayalaseema. And if you can connect and create a water grid, you will be able to produce instantly a 25% increase in production. So look at the potential of this India. This was once upon a time the most developed country in the world. People from all over the world came. In the year 1100 AD, our share of world GDP was 54%. Today, it is 11%. So all this is a country which could get that situation can once again get it. But for that, we need to do research and development. And for that also we have an advantage. Our young population, that is below 35, is 70% of the total population. This young population, if it can be motivated to do research on variety of topics, with encouragement from the government, not obstruction, not petty jealousies and so on, but make the young people, because research is always a risky thing. You may not get the result, but motivate them. Then this young population, which has done wonders in America, Indians are doing very well all over the world except in India. That's what it appears to me like. And that can be corrected by changing the way we are allocating our resources. Our educational sector is getting barely 2.5% of the GDP as investment. Long years ago, Kothari Commission had said, in 1966, they said we need at least 5% allocation of the budget on education. America has 6%. China has 7%. China has taken it very seriously, but China is a dictatorship. You can't have innovation in a country where there is dictatorship, I'm telling you. The free atmosphere that you need India potentially has that. And therefore, we have this young population. Our average age of the Indian population today is only 26. Americans is 37. Chinese 35 because that one child per family program. Europe is 46 years. Japan is 50 years. Because after it being defeated, Americans imposed family planning on Japan. Very strict family planning. And the net result was today, they are 50%, 50 years is the average age of a Japanese. India also, the same fate would have occurred as, say, China. But the Indian people, they were not ordinary people. They, in the emergency, they refused to accept it. And Mrs. Gandhi was defeated thoroughly, so was her son defeated. After that, nobody's got the guts to say, I will forcibly sterilize you, I'll drag you to some station and do it. And there were all kinds of atrocities. I don't think you people have the memory. Maybe most of you were not born then. 1975, Sanjay Gandhi had announced that any collector, if he sterilizes on any one day 50 people, then he will give a free ambassador card. Those days we used to produce only one card. Only after the economic reforms carried out by Narasimha Rao, with the help of my blueprints, all these cards have come in these multiple names and numbers. But the one card, the collector would get as a prize a free ambassador card. Now, since there was emergency, there was no one to ask any question. The collector's mother-in-law came and she said, you got a new car, how? He said, well, you know, I just sent a truck and picked up some people from the slum and I sterilized them. So I got it. So he said, I also want one, why don't you send a truck once again? This actually happened. So even though it sounds so funny, but it actually happened. These atrocities led to the defeat of Mrs. Gandhi, and after that, our population growth rate is going down, but not perhaps to some people's liking fast enough. But population is not the problem. It is the empowering of the youth by a new mindset. We need a new mindset. We have got this mindset which the British have given you, namely to make you into a babu and feel inferior. Indians have this deep inferiority complex. That's why if Trump tomorrow says Narendra Modi is a nice guy, all the TV channels say, Trump says he's a nice guy. I mean, Trump saying somebody is a nice guy is not necessarily a compliment, by the way. So, but this weakness for the foreigner, white foreigner, is still embedded thanks to Macaulay, who said, I want Indians who are British in clothes, British in eating habits, does not speak Sanskrit but speaks English, and someone who feels inferior to the British. And that has continued. And it continued, unfortunately, we should have had a cultural revolution after 1947. And we have been fed with all kinds of bogus history, that India is two countries, one Aryan and one Dravidian. And the first Dravidians ruled the whole of India. Then the Aryans came from Khyber Pass from Europe and beat the Dravidians who went south. And then the attempt was to create two different countries. That's how the DMK emerged. And the DMK has been totally against everything north. When I was fighting in the Supreme Court against the destruction of the Ram Setu, Karunanidhi got very upset with me. He said, Swami is saying in the Supreme Court, this is Ram Setu. How can it be Ram Setu? It is Adam's Bridge. How did Ram build it? Was he an engineer? Which engineering college he went to? Now, this kind of belittling of Rama, but Rama took his revenge. Next day, Karunanidhi became very sick. And he had to go to hospital. And the hospital's name was Ramchandra Medical Hospital. So this is the kind of thing, you see. His animosity to Sanskrit. Every Indian language has Sanskrit words. Some large, some more small. Malayalam has probably 80%. Karnataka has about 65%. Tamil has 42%. Even on that, Karunanidhi one day picked up a fight with me. He said, there's not a single word in Tamil language of Sanskrit. I said, but your name is Karunanidhi. Both are Sanskrit words. Why don't you change that first? This is the mindset of inferiority, division, jealousies that have been built in. That has to change. Indians hate risk. You can't make progress if you don't love risk. Of course, you must calculate the risk. Shouldn't be reckless. In America, after the class was at Harvard, when our class was over and the exams were over, and the class assembled for the last day, I used to ask the students, you see, now that you have cleared the exams and you're going to go out in the world, what kind of a career are you going to pursue? There's one way that, like Bill Gates, you see, you take a risk and you become a billionaire. And of course, there's a danger that it may not work out and you may fall flat on your face and lose everything. Or the other is a job in a company or a government. Every year your salary will increase by an increment of 5%. Until the age of 60 or 65, and then you will get gratuity and provident fund and all that. You get all that, retire, buy a house and watch television for the rest of your life. That kind of steady life, with no fear that you lose your job or fall flat on your face, which you would want. Most Americans used to ask me, what's the probability that I'll fall flat on my face? Then we'll give you the answer. But the Indian students would invariably say, we like the second job. And I used to say, why? You can be a billionaire. Why you want guaranteed poverty? They said, it is guaranteed. That's why we like that poverty. This search for security amongst Indians is pathetic. I've seen this in IIM. I asked them, why? What are you going to do after this? You're going to start a new company? You're going to start up, for venture capital? What are you going to do? No, we are going to get a nice job in one of the multinational corporations. This is one major mindset weakness. I'm telling you, unless you remove this mindset, even if you become the Prime Minister of India, you will not be able to do anything for the country. See, in a circus, there are 5 strong, well-fed lions in a cage. And one thin ringmaster will walk in, and he'll close the door, and then he'll crack his whip and say, climb up on the table. All these 5 lions will meekly climb on the table. Then he will say, open your mouth. They'll all open their mouth. He'll put his head in each one of them, and the audience will cheer. Why don't these lions bite his head off? Because from cub status, they've been brought up to obey orders. They don't know their strength. So the lion may be well fed, it may be very strong, but it will behave like a pussycat. This is the explanation I gave when people asked me why Manmohan Singh, sitting in the chair of the Prime Minister, was so afraid of Sonia Gandhi. I said, he's also Singh, but he's a circus Singh, that is why. This is a mindset. You don't, today on television, everybody is crying about how Kulbhushan Jadav's mother and wife have been ill-treated and so on. I said, that is not the way. You reply. Break Pakistan to 4 countries, then you see no country will start messing with you. But if you can't do it today, prepare for it. This is the mindset. You take risk. Well, of course, you think that your family circumstance X, Y, Z, you can't do it. That's another matter. But don't be afraid of risk. Don't search for stability, because there is no way you know how things turn out. Sometimes a bad event produces a much better event than if you never had that bad event. So this mindset change is necessary for innovation, because innovation means a risky project. But once you succeed, it wipes out all the failures that you have gone through. Never give up. That mindset you have to have. And I say this for both men and women, because there's no difference between men and women when it comes to brains. In fact, looking from the school exam results, it looks like the women have more brains. They're all 1, 2, 3, first and second and third are all women. But this gender equality talk that is going on is not part of our history. It is, we have always treated women as on an equal footing to men. And you can see, for instance, in Brahma's cabinet, the most important portfolios are with women. Durga has got defense, Lakshmi has got finance, Saraswati has got education. What male god has got? Nothing. I think only one god has got information broadcasting to Narad Muni. And when the male gods failed to finish the Asuras, they went and fell at Durga's feet and said, please save us. And she took the form of Kali and came and finished them off. You know, in the case of Mahabharata, it was the insistence of Draupadi that the war took place. Sita, the same thing. She refused to travel on the back of Hanuman and return back to Rama. She said, no, Rama has to come here and liberate all the women who are here. I will not come. And that's why the war with Ravan took place. Otherwise, there would have been no war. So I think, therefore, this gender equality must now be part of your psyche, and not what we have inherited from the last 1,000 years. So the conclusion then, I would say, is this, before you ask me questions. First and foremost, this country must now increase its allocation for education to 6% and pay its faculty so well that it is not a job of last resort to be a teacher, and raise the prestige of a teacher as it was there in ancient days, when they may be very living in poverty, but the teacher was always a guru who even the kings had to go and bow before. That is what we need. And I'm telling you today, as we are discovering texts, we are discovering things which nobody could imagine. This talk about Pushpak Viman, people made fun of it. But now we find there is a document called Vimana Shastra. And I was curious to find out what is the fuel that Pushpak Viman used. And guess what? The fuel is mercury. I asked an aeronautical engineer, can mercury be ever a fuel for an aeroplane? They said, not now, but in the future, definitely. Because one drop of mercury is equal to 10 barrels of crude oil. So who can say what happened? But this is scientifically proved. Of course, calculus, zero, decimal, everything was invented here. That's why Einstein says that it was the Hindus who taught us how to count. So I am telling you, this legacy is there. This legacy now needs a new generation. Innovation is the key thing for liberating our country. It is not more capital, more labor. Oh, FDI is coming. Oh, the papers all celebrate. What this FDI is, we don't know what this FDI is, unless it is bringing technology which you don't have already. Otherwise, they come, they will exploit you. The Walmart, if we had allowed, I didn't allow it to come when I was minister, and that ban still stays, because Walmart wanted to come to India. And the capital they were bringing was taken as loan from the US banks, which charge only 2%. And they wanted to compete with our traders, who get capital from our banks at 12% minimum. How can there be a competition? And both will be then competing for the same cheap labor, which means labor cost will go up. all these traders will be out on the streets. So when the Walmart people came to see me when I was minister and asked me how with a person like you who's for free market could ever put a ban like this, I said this is because of free market that I'm putting it. There must be a level playing field. You are getting loans at 2%, our traders are getting it 12%, and you are competing for the same labor force. This is not a fair competition. They said, how can we cure it? I said, allow all Indian companies to take labor from India, go to United States, bid for building roads, houses, and so on. So and withdraw money as loans from American banks. They said, labor from India, that's an immigration problem. I said, that's your problem. But you want your cheap capital to come here and take advantage of our cheap labor, but not our cheap labor to go there and take advantage of your cheap capital. This will not be allowed. Hence I say to you that you must therefore develop your mindset that everything is a challenge. I will take the challenge, and fail or not, doesn't matter, I'll try again. That mindset has to come. And with that, innovations are plenty before you, which will transform this country. India was once upon a time a great nation. It can become again. What do you need to become now a global power? 10 years of continuous 10% per year growth rate. 10% growth rate can be achieved without difficulty because already our rate of savings is 35%. And everybody knows that rate of savings divided by the capital output ratio will give you the rate of growth. Supposing the rate of savings is 36% and the capital output ratio is 3, that means the growth rate will be 12% per year. And if you lower that 3 to 2, then it will be 18% growth rate. So hence, the conditions for India becoming a global power is all there. What you need is innovations. And I would like our government to give much more greater focus in the near future to innovations to solve the major problems, rather than they can continue, but the priority attention should not be for startups and things like that. We have done enough in 3 years and produced some very good results. But what we need is motivating our students to go to the best schools, get the best education, and come out in real life and be empowered to start their own company to create new innovations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your idealistic views. We have received many questions from across the nation through social media platforms, which we would like you to answer. The first being, so you can sit, sir.
So the first question is, what would be the role of government to inculcate the innovative germ in youngsters? That is, policies and plans for next 10 years.
The first thing the government must do is to reduce the interest rate on loans to at least 9%. And we had a governor called, Raghuram Rajan. I've sent him home, and I hope he doesn't come back. He's back in Chicago. His idea was to go on raising interest rates to control prices, inflation. I told him, but the effect will be on small and medium industries. Their cost of capital will go up, they will close down, there will be unemployment. Unfortunately, he was not an economist. You see, he was an IIT graduate, then he went to IIM and got a MBA, and then he went to MIT and got a PhD in finance theory. Finance theory is all bilateral. You buy from me, I sell to you, that sort of thing. Economics is macro. It's a general equilibrium system. Something happens here, it will have an effect there. So if you, like the US president found out the hard way in 1925, he called all the economists and said, there's too much unemployment in the country, how do I bring it down? They said the wage rates are too high. If you lower the wage rates by convincing the trade unions, then the demand for labor will go up and there will be more employment and less unemployment. So he said, sounds very reasonable. So he talked to the labor unions and brought down the wage rates. And then he found the unemployment started increasing. So he called the economists again. They were also baffled. Then an international conference was called, and there was an economist called John Maynard Keynes in Britain who also came. And he said that when you lower the wage rates, you lower the purchasing power of the working class. And therefore the demand goes down. When the demand goes down, those companies which are on the borderline, they close up, and therefore there is more unemployment. The same way, if you raise interest rates, you may bring down the inflation rate, but you will close down small and medium industries, you will create unemployment, and you will cause a depression which will bring down prices. It's like a doctor who says that I didn't know how to bring down the temperature of a patient, and finally I decided to kill him because that's the only way I could bring down the temperature. That kind of economics we have to avoid from the government. At the moment we have only microeconomists in the government. I hope some changes are brought by the PM very soon. And take this broad approach, give youngsters money easily at low interest rate to startups, to work for innovations, give educational institutions, give tax exemptions to those who donate in big in generous terms to educational institutions. That way, and that is the role the government should play, and not a role of a policeman trying to find out who's cheated the government, who's not cheated the government. And by the way, as a byproduct, I'll say we should also abolish income tax because it's the most hopeless tax ever devised.
So the next question is GDP true indicator of growth and prosperity? If not, then how can we adapt gross national happiness in such a diverse nation like India?
You don't need a single number. This craze for a single number is wrong. Yes, GDP is one measure. And you can have it, and don't go for all these quarterly numbers and all these international, Moody and Fitch and Standard and Poor. They are very rich, by the way, they are not Standard and Poor. And all these people, they can be motivated. So therefore, don't go all by it. Just annual statistics, this is one indicator. 7% that we have achieved in the last 3 years is not enough. We need 10%, otherwise unemployment will not come down. And we need to lower interest rates. And of course, simplify the tax system, including abolishing of the income tax. These are the things where people will be enthused to start working in the economy. That is the way the role of government should be. How to enthuse the people and not force them, terrorize them, scare them, but to facilitate them to do what they want to do.
The third question is, are our innovations and products and services based on it modeled on Western culture and ecosystem, and therefore unsuitable and not appealing to mass section? What steps at micro and macro level would you suggest to promote indigenous innovations?
Could you translate that into simple English, please? What is he saying? That Western influence has done what? Do you read the question again, Ala?
Are our innovations and products and services based on it modeled on Western culture and ecosystem?
Not, demand is, it's a free democratic country, and if you don't want to buy, nobody is to prevent you from making you buy or forcing you to buy. So, well, yes, these advertisings and so on, they do create a certain a demand where there's no need for demand. But that's a very small section. We think that Indians are still the highest savers in the country, particularly the middle class women have saved. The people, women who were hurt most, by the way, by demonetization were middle class women, because they were putting all their money they saved, which the husband gave to them, under their sari, and suddenly they didn't know what to do when it was demonetized. The women are great savers. This country's saving rate is one of the highest. Ours is 35%, China is 15%, America is minus 2%. Because it's all on credit, everything is on credit. So we are a great saving country, and I wouldn't say that we are consuming. Only on black money there's a lot of consumption, which is unnecessary, and that is because we have black money, and we have black money because we have idiotic tax system. So abolish income tax tomorrow, even this kind of luxury consumption will go, and aping of the West will go.
Thank you, sir. Now this is a bit interesting. Are you optimistic enough to dream Google-like phenomenon happening in India in near future?
Which like phenomenon?
The Google-like phenomenon.
Google system?
Yes, sir.
The Google Act?
The
What
Google
is-
company.
Google company. Well, I think an Indian is already heading it, no? Isn't it? Isn't Google being headed by some Indian? Yeah, we already taken it over. One Gujarati by the name Mehta has taken over East India Company in London, by the way. I also want to tell you that. And the Patels have taken over all motels in America. It's only a matter of time before we take over the Western curve. But first you improve your own country. Don't worry about foreigners. They can't do very much in this if your mindset is clear.
The next question is, which areas or sectors do you see in dire need of innovation? What are Indian-specific sectors that need to practice innovative practices?
Number one, I would like our power systems to be subject to innovation to the point where there is no outages. You get a fixed voltage of 220 plus minus maybe 2 or 3. And a 24-hour supply, and that can be easily done. It is not done because of corruption, and corruption is there because the transmission system and the distribution system is thoroughly corrupted, and that can be done. It doesn't require very much. Fighting corruption is a desirable activity. It's not an easy activity, but don't think that just because you lost one case here or there, we won't win it on appeal. We'll win it on appeal. In fact, my first case on 2G, I lost in the High Court. And all the same cacophony I heard that, oh, this Swamy just bluffs and he doesn't do any serious work and all. Then I went to Supreme Court and got a 10 times better order in appeal. So fighting corruption is very, very important for our country. And each individual must be, you may not be ready to fight because it's a dangerous thing to fight corrupt people. They are full of mafias there. But you can be yourself an honest person. And you can bring this honesty in many other things also. Please take a pledge that you will not accept dowry from in your marriage at any time and any place. This is another major factor which is causing a lot of social problems in our country. So the issue is that our country has got the potential to grow. What it needs is a self-confident Indian population.
What is your assessment about higher educational system of our country? What changes or overhaul it requires to inspire creativity and innovation?
See, I know what the problems are. First of all, you have an authoritarian system in the educational field. And I've experienced this in the IIT. And this authoritarian system is dominated by politicians who are semi-literates. Not all of politicians are semi-literate, but most are. And therefore, the people who are doing research, the supervisors tend to want the credit of the work of they are doing instead of lauding it, instead of praising it. There's one thing I noticed, the difference between Indian academic institutions and, say, America. When I worked with Paul Samuelson or Simon Kuznets, they would promote me everywhere. They say, this guy has come from India, he's a bright guy, he's done this, he's done that. That kind of thing here our teachers don't do. They want to take the credit of this. So celebrate the good work done by our researchers, young people, and pay well. The government of India can easily do that and make these institutions. India can transform overnight, I'm telling you. You don't know what pre-1992 looked like. The roads of India, maybe now you're a little fed up with the traffic jams, but the road of India used to be pathetic when you looked at it. But today you see so much the variety of cars and so on, which nobody would have imagined in 1992. India is capable of very fast transformation when the proper opportunities are provided. So I think you should look forward in a positive way instead of thinking of where you're being held back, where you're being pushed back.
Otherwise, our family system is admired worldwide. Do you think the excess level of comfort and inheritance of family-oriented expectations are producing stereotypes generations after generations? And that's the root cause of lack of innovations?
No, I think it's not that. I think family system is a very important social security system, which Indians who live in America sorely miss. What is the problem is, one is the conservatism of the parents saying, you're telling your children, don't get into trouble, stay out of it, doesn't matter, why you must get involved in this and that, so on. This kind of timidity that is put into children. Second is, in America, if you go, you will find a young child will be asking a father and mother, why this, why that, why not this, why not that. In India, if you ask more than 2 questions, you'll get a slap, you see. So keep quiet. So this curiosity building in children is not there in our system. Otherwise, other than that, this system must be preserved. I've seen the Western world. The family system of India is wonderful. Please improve it. Don't find an alternative to it.
This being the last one, what reforms does the judicial system of our country need to become a superpower?
Judicial system is already top class. There is corruption, no doubt, but there are also very, very upright, honest judges. India, we call everybody corrupt. If I go to a doctor, he will say all lawyers are corrupt. If I go to a lawyer, they will say all politicians are corrupt. Everybody is saying everybody else is corrupt, you see. It's not so. Even amongst lawyers, we have very honest, upright people. Even amongst politicians, we have lots of upright, honest people. This issue is that judicial system is not being worked scientifically. There's too much delay, and the delay is due to lawyers. And lawyers are delaying because the more you delay, the more fees you get. And poor client has no alternative. So I suggest you do what I have done. Learn law yourself and go and practice. Nothing else is better.
Thank you so much, sir. We would now like to invite Dr. Dhiren Patel, Director of VJTI, to give a vote of thanks.
Good evening. It was indeed an eye-opener for all of us technology people. We learned a lot of economics today. And it's not economics about economy, but it's all economics about life. I am indeed thankful to Dr. Subramanian Swamy, who has accepted our invitation generated by the student body and came here to interact with us. I am also thankful to our chairperson, Board of Governors, Mrs. Sandra Shroff, and her husband, Sri Rajubai Shroff, who is a very big industrialist and who created the empire of United Phosphorus Limited by all his, hard work and dedication to spare their valuable time and be with us. I am thankful to my all faculty members and distinguished invited guests who have come here and inspire our students. And I am thankful to all my dear students as well as dear participants who have come in Technovanza and had very nice interaction with Dr. Swamy. In the last, I would like to speak a couple of words about VJTI. VJTI has a 130 years old techno-managerial legacy. We pioneered country's engineering education and research, and our graduates built industrial India pre-independence. We mentored IITs when they were established during 1952 to 1960s. VJTI faculty members have been the founder directors of those IITs. In between, IITs have gone miles ahead than us. But as it says that form is temporary, class is permanent, we belong to the we belong to the best of the institution, and sir, I assure you that our students and alumni are our strength. They are very bright. Those who miss IIT land up here. And in VJTI, I assure you that we are creating the environment in which we are going away from the one-size-fits-all education, and we are creating the boundaryless interdisciplinary environment in which cross-breeding and innovation and research is progressing, and we are exploring all the avenues. And I am sure that our students and our faculty member, everyone will try to provide a better, earth with positive environmental impact and better country. We try to empower, we try to include society, and we try to empower everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you for your kind attention.
I now request Dr. Dhiren Patel sir to present Dr. Subramanian Swamy with a token of appreciation, a memento, and a UA powered hamper. I request the audience to be seated until the dignitaries leave the auditorium.
Call me for lunch.